knowing what's happened to your country and then living in a country where you see how people react to what's been happening to your country, is there a sense of fear that something like that could potentially happen again?
No fear. I'm a student of history and someone who's lived in exile as a refugee for more than 30 years. And having observed how Rwandans prepared and organized to liberate the country, I can say with no hesitation that there's no genocide is not likely to happen again in Rwanda. When I was 5 years old, the first program against Tutsis took place. Program means mass killing, where it's sort of a genocide term, but the first genocide started way back then. It wasn't just 94. 94 was almost the fourth time because there was then there was 65, and then 73, and then 94. So I grew up as a refugee in Burundi and really stateless. We didn't have a country, we didn't have an embassy, and so we were in the hands of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees.
I've been to Africa before visiting Rwanda. I was in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. So I had some experience in Africa. This was unlike those experiences in many ways. I was told it would be safe, and when we crossed the border from Uganda, it was remarkable in the infrastructure. The roads are not just clean; they're very, very clean. But they're well paved. They're well designed. They're match any European city I was in for the areas that have been completed. My understanding is that Rwanda is a country that's rebuilding from the genocide, and that's a slow process, but they have made remarkable gains.
There is nothing I can tell you that can prepare you as a Black person uh, for the feeling you're going to get when you land in a country where you're the majority. Okay, so I just want to say that up front. Everything about it, the music, the smells, the fruits, the temperament. I don't know if it's possible to say there's an African thing, but I felt familiar. It felt so familiar. And I know this is Rwanda, this is not the whole continent, but I certainly felt at home. But to see the order of the society, to see the safety, to see in Western terms, the development of the society, to see the way in which your day to day is so well organized, so well structured, and yet not in an intimidating way. I was never intimidated. In fact, even when the soldiers were doing their jobs, I remember Dave and I feeling like, oh my God, I mean, I'm used to being totally afraid of people in uniforms in this country. And yet, these soldiers were like, oh, you know, they had to do their jobs, but in a way that was so welcoming and warm. So I came to really embrace and understand that what I was reading about, the fact that Rwanda had emerged out of this genocide to become this place of prosperity, of thriving. And I'm not saying that all problems are solved, but I'm saying in 28 years to be able to be at this space.
And as you can imagine, it was very emotional. I remember when my plane landed that I actually literally kissed the ground because this is a country that I grew up hearing from my elders. My mother told us all kinds of stories, and we longed to see this place, and I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with joy. Um, Meeting my relatives for the first time. People had gone to Uganda, to DRC, to Tanzania, and I was back. And one of the things that struck me was that everybody spoke in Rwanda. You know, as a refugee, I lived in Congo, in Burundi, in Kenya, in Uganda, and everywhere. Nobody spoke my language. Few people did, of course, refugees there. But looking around and hearing my language was really amazing.
Hmm. One of the hardest things I've ever really contemplated, right? I know the story, but when you actually are standing on the place and seeing the proximity and the reality of what people were left to on their own, how the world abandoned human beings to evil and just left. You saw the starkness of racism as well, as you noticed that all the people who were leaving were white, and everybody here was left to die, and they died. So that's the first thing, standing here, seeing where it really happened, realizing it's a place, it's not a myth. I guess the second thing for me was the extraordinary courage of the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the RPF. The courage that it took for them to take on this force and you see young men, you see women, you see every life was important. When they went into that pit, was probably the most remarkable thing. 5,000 people dead in a pit that they had thrown people alive into. And they went in there to save 12, 15, I don't know what the number is, something like that. That they went into a pit of rotten corpse. So you knew that they were going to save every life they could. So that courage has lifted my spirits. I see that there is goodness and courage and amazement. I'm amazed at these people. To me, that's striking. I am still struck by the evil of having abandoned Rwanda. And the fact that Rwanda is opening up its doors to the world is amazing to me. I don't understand this level of forgiveness or at least openness that would allow when the RPF abolished the death penalty, right after this massacre to stop the massacre. That was foresight, but it was an enormous courage to stop this. And when I look around and I see this country re-emerging from the ashes of this enormous tragedy, we should all take hope from this. We should all recognize what this looks like and to welcome Chogam, to welcome countries from around the world, none of whom helped them. I mean, the Ghanaians, there are a few, I shouldn't say that, a few countries stayed behind, but not many. And for them to welcome back the world and even welcome, God, the French president was here. I mean, I find that extraordinary. And the gachacha system they used to heal. So I leave hopeful, if that's possible.
Imigongo is a Rwandan art form, and Rwandans used to use it to decorate their homes inside and outside. But all this died and it's now coming back. And it came out up in 94. After 94, we're building a new country. And so art now becomes really important. It wasn't just drawing, it was also music, dance, and so on. In fact, we see a renaissance, a cultural renaissance that includes writing. Rwandans didn't write before, but now they're writing fiction, they're writing nonfiction. Now we have public art, and it's so beautiful to see this art coming back to life. But they're also inspiring young people about art and interpreting. So, yeah. So that museum at the parliament really shows how Rwandans liberated Rwanda. And to look at the young men and women who put their lives on the line to save lives, to go deep into the cadavers and bring out people who are still alive. But also the work they did around protecting innocent lives and protecting the city. I think that museum is very critical. I think everybody who goes to Rwanda should visit it because it really speaks to the intelligence behind the Rwanda Patriotic Army and how they were able to liberate Rwanda.
I teach a class at Simon Fraser University in International Business Marketing, and my class had done a case study on these weavers because the work is so beautiful. But nothing could prepare me for arriving at COVAGA Weavers. Oh my goodness, I tell you, I don't think kings and queens globally have ever experienced the kind of welcome that Lama got. Out of nowhere, these women came and they danced and they sang, and the joy, the sheer joy of that was just something I don't think I've never seen this. I've never seen a welcome so spontaneous, so beautiful, and so loving. And it tells me something, right? It tells me that the work that you did, that Lama Mugabe did, was deeply meaningful. But it also said something about them, about the weavers themselves. And I tell you, I often, it's moments like that that you realize that joy does not come from material wealth, right? It comes from how you weave together, a life together. Because by no stretch of anybody, we could call these people wealthy. They're okay, but they're not wealthy. But the joy that they showed. The second thing was to actually see these baskets and to see them weaving together and to remember that many of the women who came together were from different sides of this conflict. That they learned, they had to sit together and talk together. A husband could have been killed by one of these women's husbands, right? And yet they were sitting together, weaving this future together and creating this beauty. But there was even more to it. They were using the fibers of an invasive species. So it had this environmental impact. And so they were actually rescuing the rivers by harvesting this plant and then using it to create this enormous beauty.
So this is a part of water hyacinth. This is the stem. I want to tell you that water hyacinth itself has zero waste because the stem is used to weave the baskets, and the roots of this plant is used for its fertilizer, and the leaves become livestock feed. So this is a problem in our waters, lakes and rivers, because what happens is that they mat and actually the lake can disappear. So COVAGA had the idea of using this as a renewable resource in that because it's natural, you can extract it from the lake and use this to weave baskets and then create income for the family. So this is really something that has become an asset for COVAGA. It's a competitive advantage for this cooperative that uses water hyacinth as a product to build beautiful baskets that you'll see inside. And in fact, they won an award for environmental protection.
But it's also important to know these baskets are marketed globally as well. They're out there, and this is what we hope that more and more of that will happen because they are of extraordinary beauty and workmanship, and by any stretch. So very deeply interested in seeing this work rewarded the way it should be, but also just the whole experience of finally meeting these extraordinary women who came together out of that that crisis to create this initiative.
It's a cooperative of weavers. There were 60 women at the time and one man, and they insisted it wasn't a women's cooperative, it was a weavers cooperative. Yeah, so traditionally, weaving is something that women do. My mother used to weave, and so women weave. But I think after the genocide with Rwanda mainstreaming gender, so men also find it appealing because at the end of the day you get paid, you bring home the money and you help your family. And that's actually another story because women told us that since they formed the cooperative, they began to make money, and they would have enough money to pay for the children health care, education, and uniform, and in fact have some extra money to give to their husbands to go buy a beer. So it was really empowering story to see the transformation in the household.
I must say that being at CHOGM, the Commonwealth Health and Government Conference in Rwanda, has very much significance for me because I was at the CHOGM in Jamaica. I was a young woman. I was on the campus. I was my first year or something, and I was a media liaison. And I remember going to CHOGM, and Indira Gandhi was there. The Prime Minister Michael Manley was there, and it always had this impression on me because I remember it as one of those rare moments where the world might have been different. Because Michael Manley at that time, my Prime Minister of Jamaica, was talking about creating this non-aligned movement. And Indira Gandhi wanted India to be part of that. And it was a moment of trying to move the world, finding a counterweight for these post-colonial societies. What we didn't realize yet was colonization wasn't finished with us. That there was so much that was going to happen to make this very difficult for us. But I hear so many years later, I come back to another Chogam and another moment of possibility in Rwanda. Here you have this small landlocked African country with a small population, right? Commanding the attention of the Commonwealth heads of government and the conference itself. This is remarkable because remember Rwanda is was in the French orbit, not the English orbit, and made a decision to reach out. And this is something I found fascinating about Rwanda.
It's going to be an amazing impact. I think, first of all, people get to discover Rwanda, right? I think Rwandans put on a good show. It was very successful. They got to see the new Rwanda, and a lot of people had no clue, or at least they thought it was the 1994 Rwanda. And they saw a modern Rwanda, a country that's on a rise in terms of its economic prosperity. They saw friendly people and people who are doing innovative things. And in fact, that's one of the things I like about being a Chogom. I was interacting with participants from different countries, amazing people we got to interview. I have a YouTube channel called Baraza, and I hope to play some of those interviews there to engage people to understand the kind of Africa we want to build. So I want to be interviewing change agents to really share with my audience this amazing country and the transformation.
I would have thought that because of the way in which Rwanda was treated by the international community, that Rwanda would have nothing to do with the international community. And yet, instead, what I heard was President Kagame standing up there on his square, right? Because Rwanda will not allow you to just come in on your terms. You're coming in on Rwanda's terms. But nonetheless, opening up to the world at this Commonwealth Heads of Government Conference. For me, though, the most amazing thing was to hear the kinds of business. Now, I'm a business prof, right? So I'm fascinated when I hear alternative business models and see new forms of business, especially among Africa and the African diaspora. And I tell you, the kinds of evolutions in financing that were announced, both Rwanda, the innovation centers, the centers, the educational, the Center for Leadership, um, the way in which I saw so many people also who came were from the continent, excited about the prospects, but also talking about the innovation they're going through. I met business people who are doing some of the highest tech things you can think about from the Cameroon and other places. Um, uh, I saw, for example, on showcase there, a bike that was an electric bike designed in Rwanda. Um, Cell phone, first cell phone, I think, designed and made in Africa in Rwanda. Robots being on display, drones, examples of drones being used as they did with COVID. I just thought the heads of government conference was a real coming out for not just Rwanda but for the continent, and I think that is what from a business, but not business as usual, and that's what's exciting for me. Taking back the narrative, taking back the models, and I hope this is going to be an exciting time for young people. I think it is. So that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, so economically, I think it's going to be impactful. I took a motor today, and I always like to talk to motor drivers, just asking him about the experience of Chogom and Has he been able to touch some of the money? And he said, no, but I know it trickles down because when people spend money, if you have a shop, if you're a taxi driver, eventually you take a motor or you go to the store. So it does trickle down. But it's really wonderful that they found Rwanda ready. Tourism, I mean, people come here to spend money. And so Rwandans were ready to make sure that when these visitors come, give them good service, make sure that they leave money here, they don't take it back. So I think it's going to be a positive experience. I heard some really good presentations, especially the African Development Bank. He said some really good things about youth. We often talk about youth as the leaders of tomorrow, but in fact, they should be leaders today. We need to give young people the opportunity to lead, not to wait until they're adults, but listen to them and center them because, the future is in their hands, but they have to start now. That was good. But the other thing was just people I interacted with, people we interviewed, like the woman who bringing microgreens to Rwanda, amazing story. Looking at stories of like Zipline, how they're shipping blood across the country, using technology in a remarkable way. During the pandemic, they had robots working at the airport, working in hospitals, protecting healthcares because, when you contaminate doctors or nurses, it's bleak. But with this robot, it can come, check your temperature, give you food, and so on and so forth. So I think Rwandans are really known for innovation. They say it's a small country. It's not as rich as our neighbors, but our wealth are the people. And I think that's really, it speaks volume.
Rwanda and technology is like 5 and 6. Yeah, so I was so amazed at the level of innovation right here. So I had to talk with some innovators, and I realized they're doing a great job. Coming for this Commonwealth Business Forum, I think that's one of the best decisions I've taken since this year started. I've met great people, I've spoken with great people, and this experience, I always wanted to come to Rwanda. So when I saw this opportunity, I just had to jump on it.
So as a Cameroonian in Rwanda, what is it that you would like to take home? What would you like to see in Cameroon that we're doing here in Rwanda?
Implementation. We have a lot of ideas in Cameroon. A lot of ideas. Everyone has an idea, but the implementation part of it is not existing.
And follow up on results.
Follow up, and the government too, like to encourage them. Like, we have what we call a startup academy in Cameroon. We have the government trying to help some little startups, but it's not yet it. So it always dies at the idea level. So when they get some little funding, they keep asking for more. So the implementation is not always that. So there's one thing I've learned here. From idea to implementation is very narrow. I mean, the street is very, the distance is very short.
Right.
Yeah. So, but for instance, in my country, Cameroon, idea to implementation is a journey. It's a whole journey.
Have you learned any Kinyarwanda words?
There's this word I keep forgetting.
Muraho?
Muraho, yeah. That's what it's used everywhere.
Muraho.
Muraho, yeah. That's the word.
So there's no fear about the fact that this is a volcanic lake.
So if we don't extract it, it can erupt, and we don't have a choice. Yeah.
It erupted in Cameroon.
In Cameroon, yes.
So this was an environmental threat. And like the Amarebe, the water hyacinth, Rwanda is taking a negative and turns it to a positive.
So having the methane buildup could potentially erupt.
Yes,
because Dave was telling me this is one of the lakes they say with methane could just blow.
Absolutely.
But now it's being used for electricity
for
instead.
positive.
Yeah.
All right.
Fantastic project.
Lake Kivu has methane gas, and we know that methane gas has the ability to explode and kill millions of people. So Rwanda looked at it and looked at the opportunity to turn that problem into a solution by harnessing the wealth that Lake Kivu gives us and produce electricity that would really impact a wide region. It does not end in Rubavu, but it will also help people in Goma, in Uganda, and in Rwanda. So we're looking at a really transformation that would have killed so many people, and Rwanda has done its homework by bringing research, by bringing finance, and implementing these projects so that it can actually light the country.
Okay. Twagira ngo rero tubwire banza wivuge utubwire uko icyo ukora nuko byatangiye tuganire byakize.
Amazina yanjye nitwa Mukankwaya Nyesi.
Yego.
Bakaba banyita Mama Pacifique.
Yego.
Ubundi bakanyita Mama Cedric, bamwe niko bavuga nyine ubwo yose na yanjye.
Yego. Ukaba na Queen Kinwa Queen. Mwabitangiye mute rero?
Jewe ntangira kubihinga umwana atangiye kujya ku ishuri, naramubwiye ngo iyo agiye azajya areba ibyo bateka, ibyo barya byose. Ndavuga nti ibyo barya byose kubera numva ari igihugu cyateye imbere, ndavuga nti wenda ubwo agiyeyo natwe byaduteza imbere. Ndavuga rero nti ibintu bazajya, ibyo muzajya murya, wowe uzambikireho utubuto utunzanire, nanjye ntuhinge kugira ngo nanjye nzaza zihinge inaha, nzazikwirakwiza inaha. Noneho umwana arambwira ati ntabwo byapfa gushoboka kugira ngo ufate imbuto uzikura mu gihugu uzijyana mu kindi.
Nibyo.
Ibyo ntibyashoboka. Ubwo rero ahaziye aje bwa mbere nibwo yazananye n'uwo bita Kevin, baraza bahageze. Noneho ndamubwira nti za mbuto bimeze bite, bari barazitangije. Kambwa ati nta ruhusa mfite rwo kuzitangiza, ati cyo kora umwibarije yazitangiza. Ubwo rero nibwo yambwiye ati reka mukubarize, ampa udupaki, nanjye ntukwirakwiza mu nshuti, mu baturanyi. Yari yampaye udupaki duke, noneho ndadutera. Maze kudutera je turamera. Je nateye 3 n'agace. Ane twadupaki duto cyane, amagarama. Je mpimishije ijisho n'akayiko gato. Noneho ako kayiko naragahinze, abandi nazihaye nabo baragenda, sinzi uko byaje kugenda, bamwe ntibazitaho neza. Noneho najya mbabaza ntimwarazihinze, ati je zanze kumera. Undi wo nabajije ambwe ati je zanze kumera, hameramo ibigunda. None narabiranduye. None nza kwagwa muzaze mu rugo murebe je imbuto zanjye.
Ubwo byari igihe cy'imvura cyangwa?
Byari igihe cy'imvura.
Yego.
Nabwo muzaze mu rugo mberekeje izanjye uko zimeze. Ubwo baraza bazibonye bavuga ati yego, ati jewe zari zarameze ndazirandura nazibeshyeho, hari ibigunda bindi nabyitiranije nazo. Ubwo rero zimaze gukura, jewe narazisaruye, nzibonamo ibiro 8. Utuyiko 3. Nkuramo ibiro 8. Nkuyemo ibiro 8. Ubwo noneho nkajya mbwira abantu muze tuzihinge tuzikwirakwize. Jerere icyo mbonye mbona kimbereye cyiza, mba numva nagisangiza
n'abandi,
nkagisangiza abandi tukagifatanya, kuko gene nazikunze. Muri ibyo biri 8 narabifashe mfataho ndashesha, mvanga mu zindi mbuto zisanzwe, ntetse igikoma, numva bifite ikinyuranyo cy'igikoma kindi nanywaga.
Wavanze ariko
navanze, navanze, mbona zifite ikinyuranyo cy'igikoma kindi nanywaga. Noneho haza kubaho nyuma yaho baza kudutumira ngo tujye mu mahugurwa, kubera ko nk'abantu bajyaga baza bakambwira ati ariko hano mukunda guhinga indabyo. Bamwe bakajya ngo ni indabyo, abandi bakavuga ati hano bavura kinyarwanda babona ko ari imiti. Ubwo rero noneho baza kumbwira ati noneho rero iyi miti ndabaga nti igikoma, bahavamo igikoma. Bakambwira ati uzadukomorera. Ntabwo njyewe ntago nabakomorera ntaramenya nanjye icyo bimaze cyangwa se uko mbyumva, ese ndasobanukirwa neza.
Are you learning something? Tell us.
Learning, of course.
Muri bande mwatubwira?
Nitwa Esther Ndashimye.
Yego.
Akaba ari njye wari uhedinze kino gikorwa cyo gusarura.
Yego.
Zino research kino.
Uri umunyeshuri cyangwa urakora?
Ndakora.
Wize iki?
Nize crop production.
Okay.
Ino kino wane nakozeho memoire.
Okay. Wiga he? Wize he?
Nize Izayi Busogo.
Oh, good. Dufite undi munyeshuri wize muri Izayi Busogo. Hama se ubona kinwa ihagaze ite, abantu bayakira bate, akamaro kayo?
Twebwe hari nk'ibyo dukunda gukonsoma nko mu gikoma, byunganira andi mafu dukunda gukoresha nk'amasaka, nk'ibigori, soya, nayo turayifata tukayivanga. Ubwo urumva yunganira amafunguro twebwe twari dusanzwe dufata. Ikindi nk'imboga, wenda nk'ubu no kuri climatic stage, ariko iyo ikiri ntoya haba hariho imboga tukayisoroma tukaziteka nka dodo.
Yego.
Ikindi ku muturage abashaka guhinga ariko akaba yabona amafaranga.
Yego.
Uvuga ngo kino ziraremera, zigira seeds ntoya ariko zifite ibiro zikunda kuremera. Rero nk'umuturage yayihinze akaba yabona ibiro byinshi ariko abona amafaranga.
Yego. Rero nka kino hub mukorana n'abaturage mubaha seeds, mukaba training, tubwire uko bigenda.
Mbere na mbere hari abo dufite hano muri Ngoma, hari n'ahandi bita Bisagara muri Kirehe na Musanze. Abo ngabo rero nuvuga ngo mbere na mbere babanza kubona training, tukabigisha uko bazihinga, tukagisha ibyiza byabyo ku buryo bazajya banagurisha ariko bakabasha no kuba bakonsoma.
A student told me that she had a wealthy uncle who said to her, "Don't go to Africa. I'll give you anything you want, but please don't go to Africa." So it's a fear of the unknown because they don't really know Africa. And the image of Africa, right from colonial days to now, it's negative. Very rare do you hear positive stories about Africa. It's either famine, hunger, Ebola, AIDS, corruption, all the negative things. So this was an opportunity for us because people came here, fell in love with the country, and began to demystify what they heard. And they went back, they told them, no, that's not the Rwanda we have seen. And so it was really transformation, not only for Rwandans who got to interact with the visitors, but Canadians who got to hear about the story and began to come. So it was actually an interesting experience. So we did that for 7 years, and now my board and I, two of my board directors, are now living in Pacific Northwest. One is in Washington, Pullman, Washington. Another is in Lethbridge, and I'm in Vancouver. So now we're working with Simon Fraser University through the Institute for Diaspora Research and Engagement, and we're going to now be bringing people to Rwanda from Canada. We have a project called Remember Rwanda 25 Years Legacy Project at Simon Fraser University, and we're planning to do reflection tours every summer, and then we want to organize biannual conferences, maybe in Rwanda and Canada every other year. So it's really exciting. We're here, in fact, to plan that trip and where we're going to show people what we're going to do.
babwira amateka